The Brad rules!
Yu Suzuki is a visionary, a man who dares to think outside the box and beyond the limitations of other game developers. I already talked about how innovative and immersive one of his most famous games is, that being Shenmue. But what about one of his earliest projects, OutRun, the arcade driving game phenomenon? A game that must have been in every arcade and movie theater even well into the 90s, despite it being released in 1986, almost a whole year before I was even born. That attractive sit-down arcade cabinet always caught my eye, and even though my sessions were always a short one, I always enjoyed my time spent with it. I remember sitting down in it with my mom because my legs were too short to touch the pedals. Yeah, this game is embedded into some of my most sacred childhood memories. Suzuki conceived an idea of a game where you just drove and didn't worry about racing anyone. Instead, you raced against the timer, and the other drivers on the road were obstacles instead of actual opponents. I love the backstory behind the making of this game and how a team was sent to Europe to scout locations to implement into the game, and photographing a Ferrari Testarossa after deciding what would be the playable car. You can tell this wasn't a game that was just slapped together to make a quick buck. It was a labor of love and passion, making sure all the right elements were used to create the most pleasing experience possible. And that is exactly what OutRun ended up being, one of the most pleasing experiences you will ever get from an arcade game. The aesthetics are top-notch, and the scenery is awe-inspiring as you cruise through exotic and lavish landscapes, from the beach to the Swiss Alps to stone archways. OutRun delivers on the variety and delights your eyes. The way the screen scrolls toward you, creating a very immersive 3D illusion, is so well devised and presented, and is still mind-blowing today. This was 1986, mind you. No one else was doing this in the gaming industry. The sense of speed is ever present and so satisfying. I love how the screen scrolls so fluidly and rapidly as you accelerate, especially at top speed. It's quite a sight to behold. I mean, check out Gateway here and how visually satisfying this is. I mean, that's just exciting to look at. Although I feel like it could be disorienting for some, playing this on the controller even feels so smooth and tight, and I never feel like the controls are at fault for me crashing or bumping into something. OutRun has replayability out the wazoo with multiple routes that you can take. As you near the end of a stage, you'll come to a fork in the road and you can choose whichever of the two you'd like to take. And some are more challenging than others, and the Japanese version actually has the routes in a different order than what ended up in Europe and the US. And honestly, the challenge of the stages progresses better in the Japanese one. Gateway and Devil's Canyon are pretty damn hard as second stages in the international version compared to the Japanese version's second stages, being a choice between Cloudy Mountain and the Weave Field, which are far easier. The narrow nature of the routes in both Gateway and Devil's Canyon make for a fine howdy-do so early in your trip, and will be sure to have you gritting your teeth in frustration. But I always feel motivated to try again. The proper strategy to have in this game is to start the journey in the low gear and then reach your top speed, and then engage the high gear to push the engine to its limit. You will need all the speed the car can muster up, but will need to slow down at the right moments depending on the traffic and the curves in the road. And if you crash, forget about it. You've pretty much already lost, which is one of the downsides to this game. You might as well just start over. I get that this game is relatively short, and making it too easy would kind of defeat the purpose of having a timer to begin with, but it's a real nuisance to fuck up one time and it being a done deal with no way to redeem your mistake. Not even having more credits is enough to grant you more time. Once you run out of time, you're done. But it's hard to get mad at such a fun and thrilling game. Plus, crashing is fucking crazy. The car flips over and the driver and passenger go flying, confirming they didn't buckle up for safety. The traffic is one of the most maddening things for me, and trying to slip by a series of vehicles is sure to give you road rage. They never seem to change lanes quick enough, and it often leads to me losing precious time. Because, trust me, every second is precious. Even the slightest bump from another driver costs you valuable time, because you lose considerable speed when you do, and barely making it to a checkpoint isn't exactly something to be celebrated, because that means you have to be twice as efficient to make it to the next checkpoint. And what about the music? Did you know this game pretty much single-handedly influenced an entire genre of music in synthwave? Sometimes the genre is actually referred to as OutRun, which is a style of electronic music that harkens back to an 80s style of sound that was most famously heard in The Weeknd's Blinding Lights. Well, there is a limited amount of music in the game due to there only being 3 songs to choose from while you drive. But Splash Wave is the song that inspired the genre, and what a track it is. It's basically the perfect synth anthem for the 80s. Here, have a listen and ride the wave for yourselves. So OutRun is pretty damn iconic. It's visually stylish and sonically spectacular. OutRun is just one of those games that transcends simple nostalgia and remains a timeless aesthetic of coolness and all the right kind of vibes. It's a feast for the senses, to be sure. 1986 was a time in video games where the sky seemed to be the limit, and technological limitations were rapidly making inroads to evolving into a brave new world, and Yu Suzuki was one of the creative minds leading the charge. So guys, that just about does it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What are some of your memories of OutRun? Did you ever play this one in the arcades or in a movie theater or anywhere else interesting? I'd love to know in the comments down below. Let's discuss it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all the notifications when I post on my new videos. And thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.